All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jocelyn, and welcome to All We Make Is Good. This is my channel where I share mostly my knitting or fiber projects that I'm working on. I also share my artwork whenever I have new paintings that I finish. And today, this is my first knit and chat. And it's actually a crochet and chat because the project that I have brought to work on is a crochet project, which is going to be a gift for my friend Adrian. I started this, I think, 3 days ago. This is the Rosemary top, I believe it's called. I can't remember the designer's name, but I will make sure to put it on the screen, and I will also link the pattern in the description box as well. Don't mess with my notes. This is being crocheted in Caron Simply Soft in the red. This is actually the same yarn as what I use to make what I'm wearing, which is my Rooster Sweater. This does not have a pattern. It was designed by me. I made this last winter. This was, I think, my second raglan design. And as you can see, it kind of puckers a little bit because of the rapid increasing, but that's okay. And the rooster embroidery design I also created myself, and I will try to insert some either b-roll or I'll insert an image here or something like that to show you how it wraps around the side of my body, because the embroidery does wrap around the side and the tail feathers flare out across the back. So I really, really like this sweater. I think I originally intended to sell it, but pretty much every garment that I've ever made intending to sell, I ended up liking it too much and I've kept it. So here we are. But this was also made in Caron Simply Soft. These are yarns that I've had in my stash for a while, and I finally decided to find a way to use them up. So let's see, I'm already forgetting where I'm supposed to be going with this. Okay, so I thought I would use this knit and chat to kind of introduce myself a little bit more, since I haven't really formally done that on my channel. Please don't eat my notes. I would very much not like that. I am 25 and I live here in the Blackstone Valley of Massachusetts, which is in central Mass if you're not from the area. I do live very close to Rhode Island, So I actually think I spend a lot of my time going into Rhode Island more than I would go north, into like the Worcester area or something. These are my two cats. This is Toad, my troublemaker, and Frog, my little princess. I don't think she likes when I call her that. No, she's ignoring me anyways. This is my first home. I bought this house last December. I closed on December 10th, and I moved in here with my mattress and box spring and a single recliner. And that is what myself and my boyfriend lived here with for quite a while until we could find some affordable or free furniture. I've managed to furnish my entire house with under $1,000, either getting things off the side of the road or getting them secondhand from like an antique shop or something like that. This couch this is the love seat, and then I have the 3-seater couch over there that matches, that I got for, I want to say like maybe $300 for the both of them. So there are a lot of pieces in my house that I'm really, really happy with that I managed to find that way at an antique barn. And so yeah, this is my first home. I adopted these two pretty shortly after I moved in. I think I adopted them December 29th. It was the day after my birthday. And they will actually be turning 1 year old on October 10th. So very exciting. I don't know what to do for them. I'm thinking I will probably just dig up all of their lost toys from underneath the couch and bring them back into play. I don't really have the budget to be spending on new toys or anything like that. They have 2 giant cat trees. One I got off the side of the road, and one of them my parents gave me. So, and I have tons of other toys around the house, so they have tons to do there. Maybe we'll go for a nice long walk or something in the woods, and I will get all of their toys back to them from under the couch. And I'm already on a tangent. So I started knitting when I was probably about 7 years old, or I wouldn't say I started knitting. It was more of I was taught how to knit when I was 7 years old. My mom taught me how to do the long tail cast on, the knit in the purl stitch, and I don't remember if she ever taught me how to bind off. I can't remember. I think she might have. But being so young, I always lacked the confidence to cast on. I could never remember how to do the long tail cast on for all of my knit projects, for all of the little squares that I made. So I would always have to run up to my mom and ask her to cast on my new projects for me, my new squares. And then I can't actually remember another time when I was knitting a lot until college. I did work on things every once in a while, but I think in college is when I learned how to knit my first pair of socks, which I frogged, and I knit my first garments, one of which is already frogged, and the 2 different yarns that were in that project, one of them is this one right here and became a blanket, and the other one went into a different sweater, which I'm sure I'll wear at some point on this podcast. And I'm sorry I have to keep clearing my throat. I still have a lot of like phlegm in my throat from being sick. I was sick the whole month of September. I had to go to the emergency room like the first weekend in September, and they found out I had a kidney stone, which developed an infection, which didn't get treated right away. And then I caught COVID, and and it was all kind of snowballed on top of each other all throughout the month of September. So, but I am much better now. I no longer have COVID. I just have some residual symptoms like the clearing my throat, um, coughing fits sometimes, and the infection's gone. The kidney stone has not passed, so that's the only thing that I'm still dealing with, but it's not really a bother to me right now, so. But that's just a little of what I've been dealing with in the month of September. Oh my god, I completely forget what point I was making. What was I talking about? Oh, I was talking about my other sweaters. I think I was talking about my other sweaters. So there's another sweater that I made out of a old frogged one. I can remember doing some knitting on and off throughout college, and it was mostly, I think, because for me, up until last year, knitting was a seasonal hobby for me, and I would only pick it up during the cold months, and then whatever projects I hadn't finished by the time I lost interest in knitting would just stay unfinished forever, basically. And this is the first year where I actually kept up my knitting hobby. And I kept making things all throughout the summer. And we're still going, clearly. And I'm really excited about that I have a hobby now that I work on year round rather than cycling through all of my different hobbies. This seems to be a very recent change for me. And I find that most of my hobbies are now sticking around year round rather than cycling through them every couple months. So I am very excited about that. But anyways, yeah, I picked knitting back up again last winter, and kind of like mentally decided to take it seriously this time and like actually knit myself things that I would wear and I would get, a lot of use out of, and they would actually stay in my wardrobe with me for a long time, maybe even be passed down. I wanted to do the same thing for David and, knit him some things that he could keep warm in because he does work outdoors all the way through until about mid-December. And he does get very cold, so I wanted to knit him some things as well that could keep him warm. So it became kind of a functional hobby for me. And I deeply enjoy the process of knitting and creating and stuff, but I think a primary motivator for me was to fill out my wardrobe with things that are usable, mine and David's. David is my partner, if I have not mentioned that already. He lives with me most of the time, apart from when he has like really busy work weeks, because he works near Boston, which is a little bit over an hour away to get to his job. So he actually stays at his family house when he has heavy work schedule. So I'm often here by myself during the week with the company of Frog and Toad. But anyways, so yeah, I don't actually remember when I got into crochet. I know it was sometime in college, and I used it to make stuffed animals. I never imagined that I would use crochet to make garments or anything like that. I always imagined it being an accessory and like a fun kind of a thing. This is actually the very first garment I've made out of crochet, and it's a gift. So I picked up crochet. I started painting early 2021, I want to say around January. And once I started painting, I kind of decided like this is this is it for me. Like, this is what I want to do. I started All We Make Is Good very shortly after. I called it something else back then, but it was the same business of All We Make Is Good, where I sell my artwork. I started going to craft fairs, and it just became something that I'm so passionate about in my day-to-day life. Painting is kind of on and off for me. It's more like when the inspiration strikes, I'll sit down for hours and hours and hours and complete a painting. But that still gives me that residual satisfaction of creating something for a long time, and the fact that I get to look at it all the time, like hanging on my walls until it finds a home. I love that feeling, and I'm satisfied with periodic painting. Whereas knitting takes up a lot more of my time. It's recently, who was it? Casey with Young Folk Knits. She recently said, if I'm sitting, I'm knitting. And yeah, boy, if there was a bumper sticker that said that. I don't have any bumper stickers on my car, but I would put that bumper sticker somewhere in my house. If I'm sitting, I'm knitting. I work from home as well, so this gives me a lot of time, like avoiding commutes and stuff like that. And like if I ever have like 5 minutes of downtime here or there, or like I take my lunch break and I come sit here and I'm just, well, my lunch break doesn't really exist because I work the 3 to 11 shift. So it's just kind of whenever I want to go make dinner, I go make dinner. As long as there's not like work going on at that moment. But anyways, it's kind of a working lunch. So, but I do a lot of knitting in my spare time. I will take it for walks occasionally, but I don't do that. I've only done that once or twice, more as an experiment, because if you couldn't tell, I have a very hard time looking away from my project, and if I look away, I have to stop. For whatever reason, I can't get the rhythm down. Knitting or crochet, I can't get the rhythm down and look away. Especially with crochet. Can anyone look away when they crochet? Actually, I think I have seen that before. That's so impressive to me. But yeah, all of these hobbies kind of snowballed into All We Make Is Good, and now I'm just happy to be creating whatever I end up creating and put it on my website. And if somebody sees it and likes it and takes it home, then it makes me all the happier. But I'm just doing this because I find a lot of joy in it. I decided, I think it was 6 months ago, I can't remember when I started this channel, but I was getting a little overwhelmed trying to keep up with Instagram and staying, current and with all the reels and everything like that. It's a little overwhelming right now on Instagram. And I don't know if it's something that I will overcome and be able to adapt to. But in the meantime, I wanted like a much lower stress way to sit down and kind of more comprehensively share what I'm working on. And so that's how this channel came about. And I've been having the absolute time of my life recording these podcasts and sitting down to talk about my hobbies. I don't have anyone close to me that has similar interests like this. I have one friend, Hannah, who lives out in Utah, who does crochet projects, and she does some ceramics sometimes, I think. But she lives out in Utah, and I've actually only met her once in person. Hannah is such an interesting story. I, in 2020, was it 2020? Oh my God, was it COVID year? Terrible. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Anyways, I went to go visit my brother in Utah with his wife, and he was stationed there because he's in the Air Force. So he was stationed just above Salt Lake City. And I went to go visit him, and on my flight home, a woman sits down next to me and whips out her crochet project, and I whip out my knitting project, and that was it. On the flight to Chicago, we just sat there talking and, doing our projects, and it was amazing. And by the time our plane landed, I was like, do you want to keep in touch? And she was like, yeah. And we exchanged Snapchats, and we've talked pretty much every day since then in some form or another. So that's my friend Hannah. But again, she lives in Utah. She has her own very busy life, and we don't really, we don't do like video calls to do this stuff together. We did once or twice where we each got together on the phone, and we had, like, I had David and she had her partner, and we did our own little crafts. David and I did a paint night, and they did their ceramics. And it was so fun. But we are both so busy, and our schedules don't align, that we don't get to do that often anymore, or really at all. So I wanted to use this channel to start meeting other creatives and get little circles going, and use this as a platform where I can share my excitement about everything that I'm working on with people who understand, and can also share what they're working on back, because I love seeing everyone else's excitement for what they're doing. So this channel has been so fun for me, even though it's only been alive for a small while, but I'm just having so much fun with it. I think I've talked David's ear off a little too much about my knitting projects. He doesn't want to hear it anymore. All right, let's see. Okay, I think that's like all of the histories that I wanted to talk about of my hobbies and such. While I was sick, I wasn't doing too much crafting, but once I started recovering, I actually got back into cooking, which I hadn't been doing for a long time. And it's kind of weird. I kind of feel like I came out of that sickness with like a lot of refound passions. So I picked up cooking again. I've been doing a lot of home cooked meals. This morning I threw together some cinnamon, raisin, and pear scones. Excuse me. That's the first time I've made scones. I don't know if I would really call myself a baker, but my God, that was fun. Putting together the dough and everything. And just, scones are so easy. You whip up the dough and you just glob it onto a sheet and throw it in the oven, and it's incredible. I had one pair left that was like a little soft, and so I was like, oh, I could throw this into something, like you do with old bananas. You're like, oh, just throw in a banana bread. So I decided to try that with pears, and I was like, oh, I also have some raisins laying around. I know I can throw some raisins in there too. And that's honestly my favorite way to cook. If you're a cook, I would love to hear like the little things that you do to make it really enjoyable for yourself. For me, it comes with not measuring anything. For me, I mean, like with the baking, it says, use a certain amount of flour, and I know that's like really important measurements in baking. So like the baking soda you need to use the 2 teaspoons and blah, blah, blah. So I know that's really important, but I do a lot of like dinner cooking. where you just kind of throw things together. And that's really my favorite way of cooking. And that's how I find a lot of joy in it, is just throwing in what I think would taste nice and season with your heart. And yeah, I put together the first soup that I've ever made last week, and it was so delicious. I've never been a soup person in my life. I know that I like tomato soup. I know that I like French onion soup, and is there one more? Split pea soup with like chunks of ham in it and stuff. I really enjoy those. But other than that, I've never been like a soup person. Like my mom would make, soup with the Thanksgiving leftovers, and it wasn't really for me. And then she would make like a chicken tortilla soup, and like my whole family would love it. And I'm like, I can't, it's not really for me. I'm not a soup person. And I think what it is, I was thinking about this earlier today actually, and I was like, you know what it is? I think it's the chicken. Whenever there's chicken in a soup, to me, chicken just doesn't go with broth. I don't know what it is, but I can't seem to eat it. But anyways, I made my soup with a chicken stock base, and what did I add for seasonings? I did rosemary and thyme and a little bit of lemon juice, and then I added ground mustard and poppy seeds. That's what it was. There might be one more thing that I'm missing, and if there is, I'll put it down below. I'll put like a link to the recipe or something that I put together if I can figure out a recipe. Because I didn't follow any recipes. I just threw all of this stuff into the pot, no measuring or anything like that. So those were the seasonings that I did, and then the salt and pepper. And then I did a little bit of oat milk, to kind of add a little something, make it maybe a little bit thicker. And then I cooked onions until they were like caramelized and completely translucent and soft. And I put those in, and there was a lot of minced garlic in there too. And I did the same with some mushrooms that I had. I got the little white mushrooms from the grocery store. Cooked those on low until there was like a lot of juice in the pan, and they were a little bit soft. And then I threw those into the soup with all of the juice that came out of them, and kind of threw it all together that way. And simmered it for I think like 20 minutes, and then I cooked rice on the side because I didn't want the rice to absorb all of the liquid from the soup. So I cooked rice on the side and then added that in at the end, and it was a delicious soup. I actually still have a little bit left that I'm going to have to finish some point this week. It was so good. And then what else did I make at the same time? Oh, I made a flatbread for the first time too. And I did, I bought a whole wheat flatbread, and when it came out of the oven, so I looked up a recipe just as like a baseline to see, like temperatures, how long to cook it, to get like a general idea of how to make a flatbread. So I threw the flatbread in the oven by itself. And then it came out, and I spread a layer of minced garlic on top. And then I was trying to make a fig and burrata flatbread. I'd had it once before at a restaurant, and it was so delicious. And I found the figs, whole figs, in the grocery store. And I got so scared, and I was like, nope, can't do it. And so I bought blackberries instead. Because I was looking for the fig jam, and I could not find fig jam anywhere in the grocery store. So I had a hard time finding the dough as well, and somebody had to show me where that was. but don't know why I didn't ask for the fig jam. So what I ended up doing is I took the blackberries and I washed them all off and I heated them up and I combined it with a fig balsamic dressing that I bought, and kind of mashed it together, and I spread that on top of the garlic. And then I took the burrata and I pulled it apart and I spread it all over the top of the flatbread after the fig, and then I put the arugula, and then I did a balsamic glaze dressing balsamic glaze drizzled on top, and it was delicious. The only problem was there was a little bit too much moisture because the burrata had a lot of moisture in it, and then the blackberries together with the fig balsamic dressing was a little bit too much. If I was to make it again, I would leave out the fig balsamic dressing and I would just do more of the glaze on top. I love balsamic vinegar. It's one of my favorite flavors out there. So I put a lot of balsamic vinegar on things. And then, yeah, so fig, burrata, arugula, balsamic glaze. And the flavors were all there. It was so delicious. It was just a little bit, it got a tiny bit soggy, just the smallest bit, because of all of the moisture. But I think that had to do also with my uneven rolling out of the flatbread. So it was very thin in some areas, very thick in some areas, and I think that also contributed to it getting a little soggy and soft. So, oh well, things to learn for next time. I also learned that I should not cook an entire pizza dough flatbread for myself, and I should probably cut it in half and save the other half for another flatbread another time because it was difficult to eat it next day because of all that sogginess. It just got worse sitting in the fridge. So what else? Oh my god, I was calling them crustless quiches, and then my friend Adrian was like, isn't that just a frittata? I was like, oh, maybe. I'm out here thinking a frittata is like a chicken dish or something. I'd never had a frittata before or seen one. So I guess I've been making frittatas. So I whip up 6 eggs, I put a little bit of the oat milk in it, and then I do salt, pepper, Italian seasoning. I saute mushrooms and onions and throw them in. So I pre-cooked the mushrooms and onions, and then I chopped up some spinach, and threw all of that in there, and then topped it with a little bit of grated Parmesan cheese, and throw it in the oven for, I think it's like 30 minutes or maybe 35, depending on how big the eggs are. And boy, I can never go back. Like, I can never go back to eating plain eggs. Those are so good. Frittatas are amazing. So I've been making those quite frequently, although that means we're going through a lot of eggs now. So I'll have to consider getting chickens or something. Free roaming chickens. So I've been making those. I made my scones this morning. So I've just been having a blast with cooking. To me, cooking is also like an art. It's like, if somebody were to tell me like I don't feel creative, I would say try cooking, because cooking is one of those arts that you get a product, you get a finished result fairly quickly. You get a finished result in one sitting, basically, unless you're doing like, prep work to do cooking later. You get a finished result in one sitting, and it's an ever improving craft. Like, there are always ways to improve. There are always ways to modify. You put your own spin on like every aspect of cooking. whether it's the tools that you prefer to use or the seasonings that you prefer to put in your foods. Cooking is such an artwork. It's such a craft. And if anyone was ever to say I don't feel creative, I would say try cooking, because that to me is like entry level, highly rewarding art. There are so many easy recipes out there for people to follow that can help you build your confidence to try even more challenging things. Like I would very much like to try making hollandaise sauce. I've never tried it before, but I've heard it's a very difficult thing. And I don't really have like, the right setup to put like a bowl over, water that's steaming or something to heat it up slowly. And I don't have a thermometer to tell how hot it's getting or anything like that. But, eventually I'll work up the confidence to get there. And I think that comes with trying other little dishes. Food is one of my love languages anyway, so just having that reward at the end, even if it's from myself, I'm like, this is a good day just because I made some scones. So, if you haven't tried cooking, highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Even if you're bad the first time, even if you're bad the first 10 times, try cooking. I would love to get some chickens here at my house. I'm just not sure how to go about doing it. One of my dreams is actually to have a homestead. And I know that that's like a really long-term goal, because the homestead that I envision in my head is, fully off-grid, completely land reliant. It's me and my family living completely off of the things that we get off of our land. Renewable energies and the works. If I could build my own house with my own two hands on a property that we clear off by hand, and if I could do all of it, I would. That may not be achievable, but not for me at least. But that is a dream of mine, is to have a homestead. And I would love to start with chickens, and figure out a way to do it at my house here. I have a fenced-in backyard, although it does have some gaps, and I get a little nervous about that. I mean, I could fill in the gaps and stuff, but chickens just fly anyways. So it makes me nervous because there are a lot of outdoor cats in this neighborhood. My cats are indoor cats, but there are a lot of outdoor cats. There's at least 3 that I can think of that regularly hang out in my backyard. I have a nice tree in the backyard. It's a red maple that the cats like to sit under. A lot of my lawn is very long grass because I never cut it this year. I cut my lawn, I think, 3 times this year. And it was only a small portion of the lawn that I needed to clear for, just big enough for some lawn games when my family came over. Because I had to do the whole thing with a push mower. And it ran out of gas halfway through, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And this is my first time maintaining a lawn by myself. It was a mess. It was a stressful mess. And it was the middle of the summer. It was so hot. And then I mowed the lawn, and then it all died because it was so short. And it's only just now coming back because it's not been consistently in the 90s. And we're getting a little bit of rain now. Otherwise it was just, I would go out there and mow my lawn and have to wear my mask because it was a dust bowl. it was just kicking up so much dirt and dust when I went over it, and I was like, this can't be healthy for me or the grass. So I would say probably 2/3 of my lawn is actually just completely uncut grass. And it's been that way since I moved in December, so it's been growing all summer. So it's very, very long. I actually thought at one point, naive little me, I thought I was going to go out there with like a cardboard box or something and like go around smacking the tops of the grass where the seeds were and collect all of the grass so that I could reseed my front yard, because it was a dirt mound when I moved in the front yard, which is very, very small. And it's slowly become so overgrown with weeds. It just looks so, so bad. So I've been hand weeding my small front yard. The entire thing. It's probably like 200 to 300 square feet of a front yard, I would estimate. I'm really bad at estimating though, so don't hold me to that. I would say 200 to 300 square feet of front yard that I've been hand weeding periodically. So it looks so bad. It looks so bad. And I've just come to accept that it's going to continue looking bad until, I don't know, until I can manage to get out there and weed the whole thing and finally once and for all fix it and reseed it and do what I want with it. But I don't even know what I want to do with it. I know that I don't want like just grass up in the front. I want to like actually put something up there. My original intention was to do like a foraged wood, like rustic looking fence that I could throw together around the edge. And then because we have a little bit of a retaining wall, that was the other thing, is that earlier this year, the retaining wall was pretty high and the mound of dirt was creating like a really weird, uneven landscape in the front. So I went out and I removed 2 to 3 layers of bricks on the retaining wall. So I would say I removed like this much of the retaining wall and leveled the whole front by hand with a shovel. And that took me probably 3 to 4 days of like 6 to 8 hours worth of work spread out over 3 to 4 days, spread out over several weeks to do that. And so it looks a lot better, but now I just have random bricks stacked in front of my house, like in front of the front steps here, that are just not doing anything. There's some grass in the front that looked fine, and then the rest is just weeds. Just complete overgrown, super waist-high weeds. And once again, I am fine with it for now. But one day I'm going to fix it up. And I think what I want to do is do the rustic fence and put like almost like a wall of rhododendrons, white rhododendrons, or hydrangeas. Which one did I decide? Maybe I wanted hydrangeas. I can't remember. I think they're very pretty, either one of them. I have this vision of like all white flowers in the front of my house. I want to do those, oh my god, I forget what they're called. Are they oxeye daisies? The really big, tall, white flowers with like the burnt orange center. They look so pretty. I think it's oxeye daisies. But I think they're so, so pretty. And I want to put those all over the front. I want to do the white, either rhododendrons or hydrangeas. I want to do like a either a stone or like a foraged wood like sculpture in the front, um, that I would make myself, some kind of sculpture. I want some kind of a centerpiece. And then I would actually like to plant a tree in the front yard for like a little bit of added privacy. I do live very close to my neighbors. Like I have a decent sized yard and everything, but it's one of those where like everyone in this neighborhood has like the same plot and it's kind of on top of each other, and they're all arranged so that they're like every angle, every side of my house, um, somebody can look into it from a neighbor's house, every side of my house. Because where I am, I'm at the end of a dead end street. So the front of my house faces this way towards a dead end street, and that side of my house faces a different dead end street that comes behind the property. So there are people on every side of my house, and I would like to add a little bit more privacy to it. And I want to plant trees to do that. I've recently figured out what my favorite tree is, and it's one that I don't see very often near my house, but when I do see it, it's like a whole grove of these trees, and it's the catalpa tree, or might also be called like a cigar tree or something like that. And it has these beautiful big broad heart-shaped leaves, and it's like a much more happy bright green than a lot of the other trees out here. And yeah, I went out walking with David and I found a whole bunch of them, and right now their little long beans are cracking open and letting their seeds out. So I found a bean on the ground that wasn't cracked open, so I stole all of the seeds out of it and threw them into my backyard and hope one day I'll have a tree. And then if I could find a walnut tree and like take some of those walnuts and try and actually plant one of them and grow a walnut tree in my backyard, I would love to do that. And then of course I would love to get apple and pear trees and maybe even a peach tree. I think that would be nice. Apple trees, I know you need at least 2 because they need to cross-pollinate and they need to be different species. Otherwise they will not produce apples. So, but yeah, I want to fill the edges of my yard, fill my backyard with trees. And I think that would be so nice. I don't believe that this is my home that I will live forever in, but you know, I think if somebody else buys this home eventually, I think they would like to have apple trees too. Who doesn't want to have apple trees in their yard? There are a couple of houses on this street and the neighboring streets that all have apple trees in their house, so, or on their yards. So I would imagine it would be nice. And then there's a spot in my backyard where there used to be a pool. The pool did not come with the house. I got here and there was no pool. So it's actually just a huge sand pit. And I figured, you know, it's already sand. Why not use that as the base for building my own patio out of like reclaimed bricks or something like that? So that's another huge project that I want to take on eventually. Boy, this turned in from introducing myself to introducing all of my life plans. I don't even know if any of this is very interesting. But yeah, I would love to build my own reclaimed brick patio in the backyard. I think that would add a lot of value to the house. But like I was saying, I don't think that this will be the house that I live in forever. I think I will eventually move on and find, you know, like a more ideal plot of land, a little bit more space between neighbors, enough land to start having farm animals maybe, a little bit more, a little bit closer to my dreams, I think, eventually. And I think at that point, I will be able to buy a house with David, because currently this is just my house. And he lives here with me when he's not working. But I think eventually when we get our second house, it will be a combined effort to get that house. And I think that will allow us to shoot a little higher than what I can achieve on just my own income. So I'm very much looking forward to that day. And until then, I will sit here and knit my life away, or crochet my life away with my 2 little babies, and be very happy with that. Keep doing my cooking, hopefully get more confident at foraging, because one of my dreams is also to be able to cook an entire meal off of what I've foraged and or hunted. And cross that off my bucket list and continue to do it for the rest of my life, hopefully. I feel like a lot of things that exist on my bucket list are things that I want to achieve and then continue. So that is one of them. Another is the homestead. And all of these things are things that I want to reach and then build on. One of my other bucket list items is knit every sweater in my winter wardrobe, or every item in my winter wardrobe, I think I said, which I think I can absolutely achieve. But then I sit and think, like, what if I do that? What do I do when I have enough clothes that I've made? I love making them. So where do I, does that mean I stop? Or do I just start on somebody else's wardrobe? And then the idea of like knitting everything in David's wardrobe came to mind, and I was like, oh my god, I could just do that. Or knitting everything in my maybe potential kids one day wardrobe. Like that would be so fun. But yeah, until then, I'm just gonna keep making videos and doing what I love to do in my time. If you've made it this far, I would love to hear like what your bucket list items are, whether they be knitting or life in general. I love hearing about things that people are passionate about. I would love to hear what you guys want to achieve and build on. Give me like your dream patterns, or like, do you want to design a pattern of your own knitwear, or knitwise or crochet wise even? You know, what do you want? What do you aspire to do? I would love to know. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you would like to stick around and see more from me, please consider subscribing to my channel. You can find me on Instagram and on Ravelry as All We Make Is Good, although I'm very bad about updating my Ravelry. I do also have a website, that's allwemakeisgood.com, where you can find any of my artwork or anything else that I have available. I have some fall and Halloween chicken designs that are available as prints and stickers this time of year. So if that's something that you're interested in, please feel free to check that out. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.